I'm going to do type 6 today. Type 6 on the Enneagram and how they can go from their most connected state and then go down to their least connected state where they're suffering, and then I'll try and give some tips on how they can move back up. I'm doing the same for all Enneagram types. Okay, type 6, when they feel the fullness of themselves and their real self and their essential nature, and they feel this oneness, there's a palpable sense of being strong and secure and safe, because what's out there is the same as what's in here. So there's nothing that's separate to me, so there's nothing to make me feel vulnerable. But when there's a split, which happens with all of us, it's very hard to maintain a state like that. The split is that they start to look at the world around them and see that that is separate to this, and I'm on my own, and because of this, I'm in danger. There's things out there that could get me. I'm vulnerable. And we can see this in a 6. It's a bit like they're a rabbit caught in the headlights. That's the general, I'm exaggerating a bit, but that's the general feeling they have. Or someone who's been asleep and they wake up and they're not sure if there's someone downstairs, maybe a burglar. And it's that kind of alertness that gives you an idea of what life is like for many 6s, because they're always on the lookout for danger. Now, 6s are very difficult in some ways to sum up because there's such a big variety. So I'm going to do the two main varieties, the phobic 6 and the counterphobic 6, slightly separately. The phobic 6 is the one who, in that situation of being alert, will fly. They'll withdraw. The counterphobic one is the one that will fight, but we'll come to that. So the phobic one is much more likely to be a bit nervous, and in their energy you can see that they're a bit more always looking around like that. And Hugh Grant is a good example of this. I remember at the start of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, but most of his characters, he's a real sort of panicky, nervous person. And yesterday I was on a train going from Brighton to Lancing, and then I had this bike and I went on the train and I couldn't find the place where you put the bike, so I got on, and then there was these 2 buggies with children in them and their parents. So I was kind of stuck and I was blocking the train. And I asked the guard when he came what I should do about my bike, and I just knew immediately he was a 6, because it was like this. Well, you could, at the next stop, you could go down because there's 2 carriages down there. However, I don't want you to be out there and then the door's shut. We don't want that to happen. So, let me think about this. Just give me a minute. Oh, you said you're leaving. These people are leaving. Perfect. These people are leaving. So, yes. You can just move your bike to the side, they'll go through, and then you can get back on. You can have their space. Problem is solved. Wonderful. Okay, all good? See you later. And then later on in the journey, every time he'd go past me, he'd give me a little nod and a thumbs up or something, or say, happy with your spot, or something like that. And it was really evident that there was that nervousness and the looking in my eyes, wanting to form an alliance. We'll come to 6s wanting to do that soon. And also that humour, that use of humour to deflect any danger. And so that was that. Now, there's also a tendency of 6s, with all that thinking that goes on about things, that it starts to become worry and anxiety and nervousness, and it can become quite a nightmare in their heads, because they're always thinking about things that could go wrong, and things that they don't trust, things they're suspicious about, and then things about themselves they're not sure about, and nothing seems concrete, nothing seems like it's something they can hang on to. And I'm going to use an example from Hamlet. The speech, to be or not to be, that's a stereotypical way of maybe saying a Shakespearean actor, but I love that speech, and I think it really makes me see Hamlet as a 6, because I imagine it more like this. To be or not to be, that's the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to bear arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To sleep, to die, to sleep, no more. And by asleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub, for in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. Should I kill myself? Should I not? If I do kill myself, is that being more brave, or is it more courageous to just to keep going and keep trucking through? But if I die, if I die, what's it going to be like after death? Will I be then in this nightmare? Will I suffer after death? Just this constant train of thought with no way of getting out. So the logical step for a 6 is to stop listening to themselves and to find an alliance outside themselves, an authority outside of themselves that they can cling to. And this is evident, and a way I can often spot 6s is that they are a member of an organisation or a club, or they might be in a church group, or they might be volunteering for a charity, or they might be in a book club, or they might do a special exercise regime with a group of people who go around a park, or something like this. And they are often very committed to their workplace. They choose a place to work and they really want to be there, and it's like their castle. It's their fortress against the outside world. They feel aligned with their workplace, and they are going to work hard at it, and they like work. They like being there. It makes them feel secure. And also with the family, they feel secure within a family unit. But 6s also have this push-pull thing constantly going on, where they don't want to give too much of themselves away. They don't want to be totally vulnerable, so they will question authority as well, and they definitely are less likely to rise straight to the top of a career, because they want to hold back a little bit. And if they are at the top of an organisation, they will probably want lots of people around them as well to share the responsibility. So a type 6 in a workplace might also be someone who would be quite gossipy about the people at the top. So they might say stuff like, "Oh yeah, I can see that old Langrod, she's on the warpath. Yeah. Oh, she always is. She always is. She likes to rampage about, doesn't she? Yeah. That sort of thing. They just, like to make it clear that there's things about it they're not sure about." And in family situations, they can also have this push-pull thing where they can be very, very loving, but sometimes they will just really test the boundaries, and they will do things that seem out of character. Could be quite aggressive or sarcastic or aloof, because really what they're trying to do is they're just trying to work out, are they still going to be as loyal to me if I act differently? And there's a sense of starting to see things in black and white. My grandma, who was a lovely woman, she was a 6, and she had this thing about working mothers. And because I worked in education, I would sometimes talk about difficult to engage the children, and she would always say, "Oh yes, well I blame the mothers." As soon as mothers started to go out to work, that's when the problem started. It wasn't like that in my day. And I can understand why they might want to, but they might want to go out and get a career, but really it's causing so many problems that I don't think it's a good idea at all. And she wouldn't be budged on that. She just had that viewpoint. They were the people out there, the working mothers, that she could deflect her anxieties onto. They were the wrong ones, and she was right. And then, moving quickly to the rock bottom of a phobic 6, when they start to do this push-pull and they test the boundaries, they can start to find that because of their unpredictable qualities and their slightly strange behaviour sometimes, they start to lose alliances, and people start to put barriers up against them, and they start to feel like, "Oh dear, I don't know who to trust now, because the people I thought I trusted are are acting in ways that make me feel suspicious of them, but of course I don't trust myself, and I don't. So they can get very, very scared and in a place of a total nightmare because they've got nowhere to turn. Now, counterphobic sixes, I'm just going to rewind back. The fight or flight thing, when they're in that situation at the start where they're like a rabbit in the headlights, instead of withdrawing, they will be more aggressive. They will show that they are not scared. They are really, but they will show that they're not. It's their way. And there's a film, American History X. Oh, it's a hard film to watch. But there's a character in that. I think he's called Seth. He's a big guy and he's got a shaved head. And he's a really good example of a counterphobic six. And that, I'll come back to that because that leads me to the worst parts of a counterphobic six. But counterphobic sixes are much more likely to take risks, be adventurous, take risks in their career, go travelling, all these sorts of things, do extreme sports, because they want to prove that they are not afraid. They want to prove it. And football mentality, where you have a big group of people who support football and go to watch a match, and they're all together, and in where I'm from, this is a big part of the culture, is England, England, and go out and drinking and chanting, and that's a real counterphobic sixes thing, I think, to be together, to act aggressively, and unify in that way. And everyone on all the other teams, they're the bad ones. What was it in? It was Ipswich and Norwich, and one of the football stadiums was called Portman Road, I think. And I think the Norwich supporters would say, "Portman Road is burning down, burning down, burning down," and that sort of thing. All these silly chants. So that's an example of counterphobic six behaviour. But then I'll go back to Seth in American History X, because they can be he's a character who's so against black people, but so for his community of neo-Nazis. I don't know if they call themselves that in the film, but that's what they are. And because sixes have this black and white view of them and the outsiders, so they will have this issue with outsiders. And you can imagine a six, we have them in our country making speeches like, "Well, we don't go over there to take all their jobs, so why do they come over here and take all our jobs? They should go back to where they came from." And it's just that feeling of we're against them. And mixing them together now, the counterphobic and the phobic, whether they're fearful or aggressive, it's the same thing. They need to fight this fear that somehow, or run away from this fear. So a counterphobic six can get very violent and fanatical, and a phobic six can get very nervous and panicky and paralysed with fear. So where do they go? This is rock bottom. This is where they are. Where do they go? And the key thing is to remember that there's nothing out there you can ever change. And a six, this is especially important to remember. They want to know that there's something they can latch onto to be their support. They've got no internal guidance, but actually that's the only place they can ever find true, satisfying guidance, is by finding a way to have faith. And faith means it's something you believe in and you remember, even when you find it difficult to believe in, that they are good enough on their own. So a six will find that hard to hear. Well, I'm not good enough on my own. I need someone else. So a six needs to keep telling themselves, okay, what do I believe? What do I believe? Do I believe that I'm not good enough on my own? If that's what I believe, then I'm going to keep suffering. So can I believe that there is something good in me? Yes, I can. There is something good in me. There's something I trust about myself. I do trust myself. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. It's okay. Now, I can feel myself wanting to go out there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay. There's nothing wrong with me being here, just being me. I'm fine. It's okay. I trust myself. I know sometimes I might do things and I might wonder why I've done it, but it's okay. I trust myself. I trust myself. I've got faith. I've got faith. And the only guidance I need is this. When I start to feel better about myself, that means I've got a little bit better. And I can keep doing this. I can keep feeling better about myself. It's possible. I just need to keep telling myself that everything's okay. And essentially, I'm a good person. That's my essential nature. I am good. I trust myself. I trust myself. And this fear that I'm feeling, this worry that I'm feeling, this doubt I'm feeling about other people, that's not the reality. That's not true. What's true is that I am essentially a good person and a strong person, and I can keep coming back to that. I can keep coming back to that. I can start to feel better. I can start to feel more peaceful. I can start to accept a little bit more. And it seems like you're deluding yourself, and really, you are. That's the way we do this each time, is start to tell ourselves things opposite to what we normally tell ourselves, because we're all deluding ourselves all the time whenever we think that we're separate to anyone else. So a 6, when they think they need someone else's authority, they're deluding themselves. So a 6 needs to start deluding themselves that actually they are fine by themselves. And then after a while it becomes not deluding themselves, it becomes the feeling that is actually true, and that is actually true, that they are fine by themselves. They're fine by themselves. And it's easier to watch than do, I accept, but a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking again and again and again. So the only way is to start thinking a different thought. Start thinking a different thought. You could stop thought altogether, but from my experience I found that extremely difficult. For someone who thinks a lot, that's going to be extremely difficult, but you can think a thought that feels better. Think a thought that takes you back to the state of wholeness, and those thoughts are, I trust myself, I'm essentially good, I don't need anyone else, I've got faith in myself. Another thing for a 6 to remember is that when they feel fear, it's very close to excitement. The energy is very close to excitement. Fear and excitement. So by not labelling the energy so much, not labelling the feeling, but just by breathing into it and allowing it in and thinking, okay, I can feel this feeling, and it might be fear coming up, but I'm not going to label it. It's it feels quite lively, actually. It feels quite alive. It can be a way of transforming that. And along with the telling yourself of thoughts that take you back to feeling complete, it is possible to work yourself out of being fearful and disconnected.